and welcome to the Total Soccer Show, the first one of 2019. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man whose arrival was long rumoured, and he's finally here. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I see what you're doing, but I'm not going to take us there yet, because instead I'm going to say second show of the new year, first time.
First show of the new year.
Is it?
Yeah, the most recent show before this was on New Year's Eve.
There we go.
Yeah.
First show of the new year, but first time I would say in many years that we've both been wearing a collared shirt to record in this office.
Did we both get shirts for Christmas?
We have a very relaxed approach to recording here. Yes, this is a Christmas shirt.
I'm dressing for the job I want.
There we go.
Yeah.
Which is
this job.
Which is relaxed collared shirt wear.
What I want is this job, but better.
Gotcha.
Someone who got a new job, Christian Pulisic.
There's the segue. He's a pro.
So this happened. I woke up to this news. Christian Pulisic has officially signed for Chelsea Football Club. The fee was 64 million euros, goes into Borussia Dortmund's pockets, but he's been immediately loaned straight back to Dortmund for the rest of the Bundesliga season. He'll join Chelsea in the summer of this year.
And the key distinction there, because it took a while for me to get my head around it, is that he is a Chelsea player now.
He is.
It's not, they've reached the agreement that at the end of the season he'll become a Chelsea player. It's Chelsea player, but temporarily for the rest of the season loaned back to Dortmund.
But the weird thing is, even though that's 100% true, there's no photo of Pulisic with a Chelsea jersey, right? The only Pulisic Chelsea jersey photos are photoshops out there, because he's not really actually going to even arrive in London and all that until the summer.
Right. I mean, you would expect that he's at least had some conversations or maybe been to the Chelsea facility like over the holiday, potentially.
Maybe?
But it's also the case that maybe he hasn't. It seems, I think I just like
It's all done by fax these days, Taylor. It's the future.
That's the weird thing, right? It's the future, it's done by fax. It's strangely that both of those are correct.
Yeah.
I think it's just in my head, you can't move to a new job until you've talked to people and met people and agreed upon things. Not how it works. So you're right. Maybe there is a chance he hasn't been there, but still feels like maybe he's been in their plans for quite some time.
Oh, yes. All right, so we'll get into the details of where Pulisic fits in, maybe tactically with Maurizio Sarri's Chelsea and all that. But first, we had a request on Twitter from Carolyn, who essentially said there's going to be a lot of Americans who are seeing this big number and essentially be wondering, how does this transfer even work? Like, does Pulisic get that money? Who gets that money? So do you mind if we start with the absolute basics just for anyone who's wondering about this?
I do not.
Okay, so as I said, 64 million euros. That's what Borussia Dortmund will receive. That's 56.39 million pounds, 72.64 million US dollars.
Now, are you permitted to talk about the euro in England right now? Is that allowed?
We are, but it's interesting how volatile the pound is, right? So without getting deep into this, there's the big Brexit deal vote is going to be in January. The value of the pound is going to roller coaster for a little while, which means actually how much Chelsea end up paying is going to roller coaster for a little while.
And I would say with that in mind, like that, we haven't talked about this. I did have that thought of maybe that is part of the reason why Chelsea are trying to get this deal done is because you never I just remember going back, it's certainly not a direct equivalent, but I remember I got paid in Turkish lira. And when the lira dropped, it was not fun to be paid in Turkish lira when you're going back to the US and what used to be like 1-to-1 is suddenly 8-to-1. You don't have as much money to spend. And I'm just saying, like, there is that possibility that maybe they're looking down the road and thinking it's going to be easier to get business done right now. Let's get this business done.
Yeah, and I always wonder how much. Obviously, football clubs have a lot of money. Right. Chelsea with Abramovich have access to a lot of money,
more than Siberia, for example.
Well, that's where it's been extracted from. And I always wonder how much they actually think about that stuff, about currency conversions, or whether it's just we've got so much we don't care.
I always go back to like you don't get rich and stay rich by giving away money. And by,
you notice how most rich people are mean.
I mean, it's what happens, and we've joked about this before. There's like the video of Larry David arguing about a $5 parking pass or whatever, and it's just like Larry David has more money than most humans will ever have.
Is that a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode?
No, it is not.
That's an actual Larry David in real life thing.
It is a real life thing. It was like captured on CCTV or whatever, but it's an indicator that he is who he is. But it's also an indicator of if you're wealthy, you get wealthy by being frugal with your purchases, not by just spending all your money unless you happen to own some sort of oil-rich nation.
I feel like I've accidentally taken us off topic and into Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Slash geopolitics,
or maybe
whatever,
you
it's
wanted
fine.
us to go there. So just talk about that transfer fee. Once again, Dortmund will receive 64 million euros. Probably not all at once, right? These things are often amortized over a certain amount of time. Christian Pulisic's salary is independent of that transfer fee, right? We don't know how much Christian Pulisic is going to get paid at Chelsea.
And he isn't getting any of the fee. Worth noting that as well.
Yeah, not officially. This is the other thing people have asked about. There's often, when the player signs for a new team, there's a signing bonus usually. And usually the signing bonus is based as a percentage of the transfer fee. But there's no standardized thing, right? There's no guarantee that he always gets 10% of the transfer fee. But you can probably guess that there's going to be, or you could bet there's going to be like £1 million or so in signing bonus for Christian Pulisic, right? Or 500,000 or so.
That makes sense to me. Yeah. I clarify that only because I get those questions.
5 million? Maybe I'm way off. Yeah, if it's like roughly 10%.
You never know. Yeah. But I sometimes get those questions from family or friends that's like, so he's getting 64 million euros? That's a lot of money. It's like, no. Not quite how it works.
Here's an interesting thing. We worked out he's getting about 23,000 euros or $23,000 a week at Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah, big difference.
He was. We think at Chelsea, nothing is reported, but based on their wage structure, we expect him to be somewhere around £100,000 a week.
That would be my guess, because Eden Hazard, I believe, is currently their top earner. Or he's on £200,000 a week, I believe. Most players closer to like the 80 to 120 range. I would say Pulisic probably likely to be somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Because as you
85, let's say 85.
I'm going to go 90. I'm going to say he's worth that much. But I think your point, which I would agree with, is that that's because he hadn't signed the contract extension at Dortmund. So this was kind of his first pro contract, which is probably why he was
not first pro contract, but first, you're a star, here's all the money contract. Right? Because if he'd signed an extension with Dortmund, he would have got more than 20,000 a week.
Yeah. And so I'm sure he's got a good agent who sees the maximum value possible. But you have to imagine that if you're told, we're going to take you to Chelsea, you're going to play in the Premier League, and we're going to pay you 4 times what you're what you're currently making a week, you probably are okay with that.
Did you notice no mention of Pulisic's agent? I've always heard that he's represented by his own family, maybe with some help from some outside consultants. But it seems, I would guess that they've managed to get him a really good deal.
Yeah. Or they've had some consultants in the form of like George Mendes or something. Yeah. We'll see.
Well, the guy's name was Rob Moore. Do you remember that Ringer story that was all about how he landed Pulisic at Dortmund? This is from last year or so. So my guess is maybe that he was hired as an outside consultant again.
Might could be. Might could be, which makes more sense because then you don't have to pay the massive agent fee on top of that. There we go.
Did we mention 5.5-year contract?
We did not.
That is a commitment.
Or if we did,
Chelsea.
I don't remember it. Yeah.
But I think that's why this move makes sense for Chelsea, is they're making a long-term commitment to a 20-year-old player who has already shown a lot of, not just promise, but has actually delivered. Maybe not quite so much this season, but has in the past delivered at the top level. And I think, including in the Champions League.
True. And I think that's what it comes down to for me, is I think if you look at all of the like individual parts of this and all the different possibilities that go with this signing, and you put them all together, to me it speaks to maybe it wasn't necessarily Sarri who came in and said, this is the guy I want, but there's an idea of we want to continue with Sarri or Sarri ball. We want to be able to him to play the way he wants to play because that's how he's found success. And then you look at it and think maybe that's Christian Pulisic is a player that they've identified as being able to do all of the things that they need in that attacking player.
So before we get into the details of how he fits into that system, there was also a bit of reporting from, again, Rafa Honigstein, who I think has been a really good source throughout this, right? Because he's the most high-profile English language journalist who's very connected in Germany, that essentially Chelsea were trying to make this move happen last summer. So this isn't just a thing that's only happened in the last couple of weeks. This has been going on for 6 months or so.
Yeah. And where would you like to go? Because I don't want to keep us jumping around.
Well, I want to underline that as evidence that this is a move that Chelsea have thought long and hard about. It's a thing that they wanted. They've wanted for a few months. To the point where there's that story that Atletico made contact with Dortmund and were basically told there's something already happening, but maybe don't bother.
Yeah. and then I think...
And then I want to ask about why. Why is it that he makes so much sense for Chelsea?
Sure. Well, I think first off, I would say, though, that I think there's been a lot of... dots being connected in terms of, he's coming in, that means Eden Hazard is gone, or Willian's going to be gone, and they want to do this and they want to do that. I don't feel comfortable making a lot of those jumps because, to your point, they went after him last summer. Yeah. They weren't looking to sell Eden Hazard last summer, certainly. They knew they were going to have to get rid of Thibaut Courtois. I don't think they wanted to lose both. They certainly didn't end up doing that. And I think you could make an argument that maybe he was meant to kind of be a replacement for Eden Hazard in terms of coming in for 15 minutes here and there, or if Hazard needs a break. It could also be the case that he was meant to be played on the opposite side of the field, and then Willian is kind of his, they go back and forth on who gets those minutes.
Sarri has complained a little bit about a lack of wingers that play the way he wants to play. And I've noticed Victor Moses hasn't got much much of a run out at winger, despite having a history there.
Yeah, and so I think you could even say that with the way things have gone more recently, Alvaro Morata seems like maybe he's on his way out, or seems like he has had his time. Mauricio Sarri has judged him, been found wanting.
I've heard he tried to go through the exit door but kept missing.
That makes sense. And so I would even say that there's a chance that we see next season like a front three of Eden Hazard, Willian, and Christian Pulisic.
No striker.
Because they've been using Eden Hazard as the false nine, and it has worked pretty well.
Oh, in a Dries Mertens at Napoli kind of way, where you get a winger to play centre forward.
And I think and that's worked for them. Insigne, Mertens, and Marek Hamšík as that front three. I could see a similar thing at Chelsea and it working. So maybe Eden Hazard does end up leaving, and maybe this was just them trying to get their business done before Hazard goes and before everyone knows Chelsea have £120 million to spend. So maybe that fee of 64 is now suddenly 75.
I also read, again, a Honigstein piece, that the suggestion was that Chelsea wanted him to move right now, but it was Pulisic that suggested, no, let me see out the final 6 months at Dortmund. Mostly because it's hard to come in somewhere in the winter.
Yes.
Right? I honestly think if he went to Chelsea right now, it would not be a good move.
No.
Because then you're sort of thrown in the deep end and it's really tough. He's better off starting with Chelsea fresh next summer in pre-season.
Yeah. I would agree. And if for no other reason than because right now you have chopping and changing up top. Sometimes it's Alvaro Morata, sometimes it's Eden Hazard, even less sometimes it's Olivier Giroud.
Yeah.
But you still have so many different options there that if you're Pulisic coming in, you have no guarantee. And suddenly, you're going to start on the right. Actually, we're going to use you on the left. We're going to use you as a wide midfielder for this one game. And if you're just sort of being swapped in random places, you don't ever get any consistency. It doesn't help you really gel that much, and you could easily find yourself not necessarily surplus to requirements, but not in that core group. Whereas if this season plays out, if Chelsea finish third or fourth or whatever, and then they maybe strengthen a little bit more, get rid of some dead weight, suddenly you're coming in for a full preseason with sort of what your expectations are known up front.
Okay, and here is from the club statement when they announced Pulisic signing, they announced him as someone who plays as a right winger or on the left or behind a striker.
Yep.
So they're covering all the upfront options. Let's talk about how Pulisic fits into Chelsea's system, how he fits into Sarri ball.
Sure. And I would go back to do that. I would say I would go back to the 2016-2017 season of Napoli under Sarri. And that's the one where I'm talking about with Insigne, Mertens, and Hamšík. And I mentioned that specifically because of the interchange of those three. That it usually was Mertens up top as the center forward.
Is Hamšík not one of the central midfielders?
I think he was occasionally, but then occasionally pushed forward.
Okay.
And at least that's where he scored his goals. So I think that's where they chose to include him. But I think the key thing there being that those players kind of rotated around. That you'd have Insigne starting on the left as a wide player, but then his responsibility was mostly to drift more centrally, and then it was the left wing back or left back who was kind of patrolling the flank for them. And I say all that just to say that I don't think that statement is a very good indicator of what the expectations are, which is we might see Pulisic start one game on the left and then one game on the right. And it's not just that they're swapping him around or it didn't really work here, let's try it there. But it's more so that's what the role is you move around because that creates uncertainty for defenses.
Okay, so let's stack that up against what we know about Christian Pulisic.
Sure.
I think I prefer him on the right, but I've definitely seen him play right wing and left wing for Dortmund and for the United States.
Yeah.
And when I think of Christian Pulisic, I think of a sort of right-footed player, but definitely not right-foot dominant. Not like a Jordan Morris, heavily lean on one foot type of player.
Yeah, I would say maybe right-foot dominant, but not right-foot dominant so that he won't use the left.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I think of someone who his big danger is he hasn't got a bunch of tricks really, right? What he is, he's very quick and he has great acceleration and a good bit of disguise on where he's going. And he can go to your left or to your right.
Yep.
So when he's sort of running at you down the wing or cutting in from the interior, coming at you on a diagonal, he can go left or right, and that's what's dangerous about him.
Yeah.
So that works on either side of Chelsea's flanks.
It does, and especially so when you consider that another key aspect of Sarri ball, at least of that iteration of it, is possession with purpose, is what he talks about a lot, and the idea of transitioning from defense to attack quickly.
Yes.
And it's not moving the ball around, and then eventually you try to find a spot. It's getting the ball into attackers in 1v1 or ideal attacking situations.
Yeah.
And that seems, again, like Pulisic. It's a lot of movement, it's a lot of finding space, and then it's technical precision when he has the ball at his feet. You might not see a double step over, but he's very good at keeping control of the ball.
So the other big Sarri thing I see is the triangles, right? This is the other big attacking weapon of any Sarri team. You will get overloads on one side or the other, and it'll be, say, the right winger, the right back, and one of the central midfielders maybe, or Jorginho when he comes over. Whether Napoli or Chelsea, Jorginho just goes wherever Sarri goes. And they form these 10 to 15 yard players apart triangles, the ball moves very quickly. It almost like just starts rotating until the other team gets sucked in and then they burst away. Yeah. I can picture that happening. Again, down either flank, that ball moves quickly in a triangle, and then it's Pulisic that bursts away down the wing.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, I mean, and I think he is more than capable of doing that. Again, this is where I go back to your initial point of it's why maybe he wants to wait until the summer so he can get that preseason so he can figure out.
You got to learn the triangles.
Yeah, because if you don't have that and you're coming in and everybody else, even if I'm not saying he's a better player than say Pedro. I think he is, but I don't know. That's probably my personal bias. But I think if Pedro's been there, had the preseason,
he's definitely more American.
That is true. But he's also, Pedro has had the preseason, has had the first half of the season, and therefore knows the movements, knows the positioning. And if Pulisic is coming in and trying to learn all that on the fly, competing against a player who already knows it, he is naturally going to look like an inferior player.
I absolutely agree. Because when I watch Chelsea, what I see is these players, and this is like based on watching them, just casually watching them, and also some heavier research in the last 48 hours. I see them naturally form these triangles. Like it's almost like they're trained almost by rote to get into these triangular positions and then move the ball quickly. And you can't just pick that up. It takes a lot of repetition, basically, to get that down. So, again, the preseason thing makes a lot of sense to me.
I'm going to guess you also watched some Tifo videos as well?
I did not. I do love Tifo football, but I didn't watch them this time.
The one that sort of like...
I didn't want to deny them a shout-out.
Sent off happy alarms in my head was when they said, in terms of crossing under Sarri at Napoli, crossing was not preferred. Quote, crosses only favored when they're low and direct across the box.
Yes.
That feels like a Christian Pulisic special.
It does, yeah. So, that makes sense, especially at Napoli when Dries Mertens is a striker, right?
Exactly.
He's not winning balls in the air.
No, and I don't think that's what they're looking for. I think they want the triangles, the possession, the movement, and then the killer instinct. So I think it all fits. But I'm keenly aware that we have seen many hyped young players move to many big clubs, and it has not worked.
Yeah.
And so what I would say with this is, first of all, I don't just want to be fanboy cheerleaders and say, this is the best thing ever, because I don't know. I think it's exciting, but I think the way I'm going to choose to approach this is it's Pulisic going to a massive club. It is a step up from Dortmund. Even if Dortmund end up winning the Bundesliga, I do think competing in the Premier League is a much different animal, and it's a much more difficult animal.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if an animal can be difficult, but there we are. And so I really am going to choose to see this as akin to Tyler Adams joining RB Leipzig, and it's that sort of can he do it? We'll find out. And I'm going to look at the 10 minutes he gets and what his touches look like. I'm not going to look at it as, he didn't start the first 2 games. Clearly, he's not good enough. I want to see it as
it's a
young player going in. He's got to prove himself.
Yeah. You can't tell if the sky's falling in London because it's grey.
Exactly.
Overhead, anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this just speaks to, same with Tyler Adams going to Leipzig. It speaks to Christian Pulisic's ambition and bravery, right?
Yeah.
This is the same. The way he got here, I think we haven't talked about this, is he basically said to Dortmund, I'm not signing a new contract, right? It runs out in 2020. I'm not going to run it down and leave for free, but I'd like to be sold. I'd like to go to the Premier League. And he's kind of made that happen, seemingly on good terms with Dortmund, based on what they've said as he's going out the door. But it speaks to this ambition, right? It's the same ambition as a 16-year-old kid moving from Pennsylvania to Germany. You know what I'm saying? That takes bravery and ambition. This is just the next step. In 4 years later, more bravery, more ambition. I'm going to go to London. I'm going to go to the Premier League. I'm not scared of Pedro, Willian, and Eden Hazard. I think I can get a starting spot with those guys. I think we should basically, in a way, we just should be excited that he's so ambitious.
I would go so far as to say I bet he's not even thought about it like that. I bet he isn't I'm as good as them. I don't think that's how world-class athletes, and specifically world-class athletes who are ultra-competitive, because that's what you have to be, I don't think it's seen as I am probably as good as him. I could probably beat him. I think it's I'm going to go in and I'm going to beat everybody. I think that's the mentality you have to have.
I'm going to line them up in a row and nutmeg all 3 of them at once.
There we are. That's what Dele Alli did to get his new contract. But I would also add to a thing that you were saying, that he probably is leaving in the good graces of Dortmund because yes, it seems like he didn't want the new contract. He wanted to move, but we didn't really hear a lot about that. We didn't hear him publicly saying, I want to move, I want to transfer. I'm not getting enough playing time. They don't respect me. They don't value what I'm bringing.
Was he just polite and respectful in terms of not putting that in the press, not being a loudmouth?
My guess would be that it was hey, I'm not going to sign a new deal. I'm looking for a move. I wanted to let you know that. Now you can kind of go out and quietly ask people if they're interested, and that's why I do think you didn't have this massive, they're interested and they're interested and they're interested. It was really, 3 clubs in the end that it seemed like he was kind of on the radar for.
I would say Jadon Sancho helped.
Yeah.
Maybe when he said
certainly
that,
didn't hurt.
Dortmund were like, what were you saying, Christian? We were talking to Jadon and watching him do moves.
Yeah.
This kid's going to win us the Bundesliga.
But actually, no, that's a good point, though, because I think if he had been very publicly one away, it really hurts him because then Dortmund are like, fine, we've got this kid, we don't care.
Yeah.
But to do it kind of quietly, to not create a bunch of drama, it's why I think a lot of times if you have two very good players and they're sort of vying for the same spot, it becomes a big talking point. And it doesn't feel like that's happened at Dortmund. It hasn't been a lot of bad blood, at least not publicly.
Yeah.
And I think it easily could have been under different circumstances.
All right, let's talk about maybe what happens in the near-term future, because there's one thing I'm worried about, which is this. Christian Pulisic's very focused on getting his pre-season in with Chelsea next year. Does that mean he tries to wiggle out of the Gold Cup?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I would assume not because you want to keep your fitness up, but maybe he wiggles out of the first round of the Gold Cup.
That's possibly the compromise, which I still don't like.
Right,
I want Berhalter to have all the best players at his disposal.
But if you're unfamiliar, after the group stage of the Gold Cup, you can make some changes to your roster if you so choose.
So that'll be a thing to keep an eye on.
That feels
I've upset
more
you now,
likely.
haven't I?
No, not really. It's just I'm realizing that's almost certainly what's going to happen.
One final thing to talk about in this is we want Christian Pulisic to leave the Bundesliga as a champion.
Yeah.
And he has a good chance to do that, right? Dortmund are top of the league right now. I know Sancho is starting ahead of him, but he's definitely going to play plenty of games between now and the summer. It would be great to leave with that Bundesliga title.
Yeah. And I hope he does. I think Bayern will have something to say about that one. So we will keep our eyes fixed on the Bundesliga for the rest of the season. And then after that, no more Bundesliga ever again.
No. There's plenty of Americans to talk about in the Bundesliga.
You're darn right there.
Yeah. Some of whom we'll maybe talk about later. Including Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams is coming in January.
Yeah. But instead of talking about Americans in the Bundesliga, let's talk about Americans potentially in the Premier League for a moment.
Yeah.
Or continue the conversation about Americans in the Premier League.
Slightly less high profile.
Yep.
But Emerson Hyndman of AFC Bournemouth, to give them their full name, his loan at Hibernian in the Scottish Premier League has ended, and Hyndman is back at Bournemouth. And I got to say, when I saw this news, I forgot it was only a 6-month deal. I thought he was at Hibs for the whole season. I did feel a bit like, oh no, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, and I forgot that as well. We were reminded by Richie Garcia, who scouts Emerson Hyndman for the Total Soccer Show. He said Emerson has returned to Bournemouth after a 6-month loan. We talked about that. The Scottish Sun reported that AFC coach Eddie Howe did not renew Emerson's loan due to injury concerns at AFC Bournemouth.
So that's maybe good news.
Yeah, I think it definitely is.
In terms of playing time.
Richie explains that Hyndman's tenure at Hibs as, quote, a sophomore pro season. At times he looked like the best player on the pitch, and at others he struggled to connect with his teammates or his final ball was a bit lacking. He did end up, however, becoming a valued piece for Hibs coach Neil Lennon, end quote. So that's all pretty good, but I think the key thing that I'm still taking away from this is that it was an intentional 6-month loan, not it's not working out and we're not going to renew it. Yeah. And then you look at Bournemouth and their lack of midfield depth combined with their current injuries, and it feels like maybe he's been brought in to provide cover, which means we might see him actually get some Premier League minutes.
Okay, so Lewis Cook is out, right? Yep. I'm a big Lewis Cook fan, but I was also relieved when he wasn't playing against Wolves, for example. Yep. So he can't play for Bournemouth. I think that only Jefferson Lerma and Andrew Sermon are the sort of senior midfielders currently available.
And Lerma's like a card away from suspension?
Yeah, from a 2-match suspension. So do we maybe expect we see Emerson Hyndman play really soon for Bournemouth?
We'll see.
More through other players being unavailable.
Famous last words, because I said this exact same thing about Josh Sargent. I would say probably not right away. Watch him start right now or something.
I'll bet he plays in the FA Cup next weekend.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me. As we see him there to see what he can do in a competitive fixture.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't start, but maybe he gets some minutes. But either way, I think we do see him get a few minutes, and then it really will depend on how those minutes go.
Here's my suggestion. They use him through this little injury crisis through January. Then maybe January. Is there a January 31st? If there is, January
30 days have September, April, June, and November. Yes.
January 31st. Thank you. Maybe he gets loaned somewhere else, like maybe Leeds United in the Championship. Go play for Bielsa. Something like that.
Okay.
You know
I'm
what I
down
mean?
with that.
So they can use him for the little crisis, but then there's still time to send him out on loan to get some more experience somewhere else.
Yeah. But also to keep him in England and see what he can do closer to home. Yeah, that all makes sense.
I would definitely, for the winter, for January, I'd much rather be on the south coast in Bournemouth.
That checks out.
Than playing for Hibs.
That checks out.
Scotland.
Yes. So 2 players to keep an eye on for the remainder of the season for very different reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing we'll still be following Christian Pulisic and Emerson Hyndman at the end of the season.
Yeah. Oh, I have one final Christian Pulisic thing.
What's that?
Does it mean we all have to be Chelsea fans now?
Nope.
I saw this was a concern that a lot of people had, that they support Americans who support teams that are, historically rivals with Chelsea. Say you're a Liverpool fan or an Arsenal fan or a Man United fan. Suddenly you have to kind of root for Chelsea.
Nope. Sure don't. No, I don't. I don't have to root for anybody. No, I mean, it makes me more sympathetic to that team, I suppose.
Yeah.
But no, I will still happily be rooting against Chelsea whenever Manchester United play them.
Okay.
I mean, I always want Pulisic to do... Maybe that will soften it a little bit, as like if he scores against United, then at least it's Christian Pulisic who scored.
So you want United to win 4-3 with a Pulisic hat-trick?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Wolves aren't quite in that echelon yet, so I'm okay with Chelsea doing great.
Okay.
Yeah. Depends how much better Wolves get, I
mean,
suppose.
yeah. We'll see what happens for the remainder of the year.
The remainder of today's show, we are going to get to sort of transfer rumours, but also transfers we at the Total Soccer Show think should happen.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we have a transfer here on the Total Soccer Show.
We sure do.
We have a new signing. Our new sponsor is HelloFresh. Hello to HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that shops, plans and delivers step-by-step recipes and pre-measured ingredients so you can just cook, eat and enjoy. This is a January transfer because listeners may know we used to have a different meal kit delivery service, which we will not name, but we are happy to say hello to HelloFresh as our new signing.
We sure are. Now,
I think it's an upgrade.
At time of recording, mine has not yet arrived because I didn't want to schedule one too close to when my wife and I were out of town.
Yeah.
Yours has already arrived. You've already eaten all of them, is that correct?
All of them, because we actually did it really well. We scheduled it to arrive the day before we got back from England. So we got back, no groceries except the basics, and a HelloFresh box was waiting for me. Perfect timing.
And key point there is still a refrigerated box, I would assume.
Yes, the box
so
was
then you
refrigerated,
can schedule it to arrive a day before, and it will stay just fine.
And here's an upgrade: the refrigeration stuff, the gel, the packaging is recyclable.
There we go.
HelloFresh, yeah.
I mean, it was always recyclable in the sense that I have 9 of them in my freezer.
That's not recycling, Taylor.
Not quite.
That's hoarding.
It's reusing.
The other thing I like about HelloFresh that the competitor did not do is you get the box, you get all the ingredients that you need for the 3 meals in the box, but they're not just all jumbled up. They are individually bagged. So for, the 3 recipes I got were like za'atar grilling cheese, that meal is already in its own box so that you just take the one out. So what I could do is instead of being faced with a box of ingredients, I could take out the bag and put the 3 bags in the fridge.
There we go.
Ready to go. So when I'm ready to cook one, I'll just pull it out and go.
Oh, that works pretty well. So all meals can come together in 30 minutes maximum. They call for less than 2 pots and pans and require minimal cleanup. That, I'm assuming, was ideal for you. Nobody wants to clean up, so it's fine.
It certainly was.
Yeah. So you can get out of the recipe rut and start cooking outside of your comfort zone by delivering new delicious recipes. That's the thing I'm excited about because I like to try different things. At least I say I do, but then when it comes time, I'm like, I'll just make the same thing. This will force me to do different things.
So you can choose from classic, veggie and family. And of course, we chose veggie, me and Shannon, so we got the vegetarian meals delivered. We got chickpea tinga tacos, za'atar-crusted grilling cheese with a couscous base with mint in it. Minty couscous, which I was really excited about. And, sounds very basic, but a minestrone soup, which was chef's kiss. And again, it was nice and easy because the pre-measured ingredients were in each little bag. The recipe card told me what to do with them. I did one, my wife did one, and I think we literally did 50% each because we split the cooking on the third one.
I think she'll be the judge of that. We'll see if it was really 50-50.
Well, I swear it was. I swear to you it was.
Our listeners can take advantage of HelloFresh's special offer for 2019. Get $80 off your first month by going to HelloFresh.com/
TSS80.
There we are. And enter promo code TSS80.
So that's HelloFresh.com/ TSS80, and the promo code is TSS80.
So thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's episode. Welcome on board, HelloFresh. Now,
wonderful winter transfer window.
Yeah. Now shall we get to our theoretical possible maybe potential transfers?
Yeah, so this is a weird mix of things we think should happen, things that might be happening, and in some cases things that are about to happen.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean for them to be that way, but there's a few that I was like, that's too obvious because it seems like it's going to happen, and then I just went back to it. Like, yeah, if it's going to happen, it's also a thing I wouldn't mind seeing.
Let's talk about it. Let's make this the January transfer window spectacular. All
right. I may do some like categorization when I get to each individual one to be like, okay, this one is one I think could happen, this one is definitely not going to happen.
All right, so we've got about 5 each, right?
Yeah,
okay, where do you want to start, Taylor?
I want to start with Manchester City, because I know you've got one for Man City as well. The big talking point this season has been the importance of Fernandinho.
Yes.
He is 33 years old. The games that he has missed most recently would be 2 losses for Man City.
Crystal Palace and Leicester.
Yes,
right?
So emphasizing the importance and what he brings to the table. And so maybe they don't necessarily need a replacement for him right now, but I feel like what they could use is a person to come in, learn the ropes over the next 6 months and deputize, and then maybe we see them start swapping roles next season.
You're spying on my Google Docs.
All right, well, let's do this then. If you've got all those same notes, I'm assuming then you've at least got one name on there. So which name would you most like to go for? We're going to go 3, 2, 1. and then we'll say the name. So 3, 2, 1, name.
Okay, I think mine is not going to happen because another team is in for him and seems to be closer to making it happen, but I do have an ideal replacement.
Okay.
So you ready for 3, 2, 1?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Frankie
Julian
de
Weigl.
Jong.
All right. I had that one too. I had Frankie de Jong, and really, if I'm being totally honest, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, it comes down to I am not as familiar with him. I have not watched that much Ajax, except for like a few Champions League minutes here and there.
Okay.
So I feel like it would be slightly disingenuous for me to be like, he's going to do this, and he's going to do this, he's going to do this. I have faith in you to have done that research, but that's why I went Weigl.
Okay, so let me give you my quick Frankie de Jong pitch, and then we'll talk about Weigl as the sort of hold. So for people who don't know, Fernandinho is the number 6, the holder midfielder, but not really in a defensive way, right? More in the whole passing scheme goes through him kind of way. He is the Busquets that Guardiola had at Barcelona, or the Xabi Alonso that Guardiola had at Bayern Munich, right? So Fernandinho is that guy right now, but as you said, 33, not always available, maybe need a replacement long term.
Premier League is hard.
And someone to spell him maybe for this next 6 months for the title race. Okay. Frankie de Jong, 21 years old. Right now, unless something's happened while we're recording, he's at Ajax. He is super, super, super calm on the ball. You cannot take the ball off him. And he's just very good at spotting passes that no one else can see. And similar to Busquets, he's good at making the space for those passes happen, right? By like faking like I'm going to my right, that defender shuffles that way a little bit, but actually you're splitting the pass down into that space where that defender's just moved away from. You know
pretty much all the same things for Weigl, except he's 23.
Is that right? All right, so let me wrap up on de Jong.
Sure.
The rumour is Barcelona, and it looks very much like de Jong is going to go to Barcelona, so that may not be an option for Manchester City.
It's him and Matthias de Ligt, right?
That's also rumoured,
They're both rumoured to be on their way to Barcelona.
Yep.
But then again, everyone is rumoured with every big club. That's how this works.
So give me your Weigl pitch.
Weigl, I mean, so they already have some familiarity doing business with Dortmund, going back to Okay Gundogan. Weigl also, in my mind at least, again, maybe I'm totally off base here, I welcome you to tell me, but is, I think, a little bit to me in the Christian Pulisic mold of a player who previously was super duper duper important to Borussia Dortmund, but seems like still very important, don't get me wrong, but isn't quite this player that they built the entire team around the way he was a year or two ago.
Axel Witsel has replaced him as the absolute core of Borussia Dortmund. Yeah, so Weigl, I think, is one of those guys that's super talented, can do the job, and weirdly is available.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think it might make sense. He probably costs a lot less than Frankie de Jong as well because he's not so highly valued at Dortmund right now.
Yeah, but it contrasted with Pulisic, though, I think, with that in mind, that he becomes a player that like maybe people like I could just see a bunch of old British pundits being like, who's this guy? Like, why have they gone for him?
Yeah.
Whereas maybe if you go for like a young Dutch player who's got all this promise, there's more emphasis on like, oh, he's the next player for 10 years. I kept seeing that.
Who cares what
City's
Graham
midfielder for 10 years.
Who cares what Graham Souness says?
But all I mean is that like it maybe I do think, for me at least, there's a few of these that it's like about being able to fly under the radar a little bit. That like if it's City going out and spending 75 million to get the future star of the Dutch national team, then it's like, oh, there they go, spending all this money again. But if you go out and you get Julian Weigl for 40 million pounds, that to me is a better bit of business that maybe attracts less attention.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I had a list of other options.
Sure.
One of them I'm scared to say out loud in case I will it into happening, but Ruben Neves.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Ruben Neves.
Those are the three names that I've seen most consistently
Has he been
linked with
okay,
that. Yeah.
I've got one more that's been very heavily linked in that Man City have possibly put a bid in.
Tyler Adams.
Not Tyler Adams. Not just yet.
Zach Steffen.
But he's already there. Ruben Neves, I think, would maybe be good at that base of midfield. Already has the Premier League experience.
Did you mean to say Ruben Neves?
I did mean to say Ruben Neves.
Okay.
The guy that's actually been linked and Man City have put apparently a £45 million bid in is Tanguy Ndombele, the Lyon midfielder. And they've been told, no, we want 70 million.
Yeah, of course. Because it's the January window, so prices go up.
Yep.
And then it's the window post Neymar, so prices go up again.
So have you seen much of Ndombele?
No, I haven't.
All right, so played for Lyon against Man City those two times and impressed Guardiola, I think. He is not really a deep-lying midfielder. I think what I saw of Lyon, because I went and did some watching for this transfer.
Nor is John Stones.
Well, yeah. But no, even for Lyon, Lucas Toussaint plays that number 6 role, and Ndombele is more of a box-to-box, all over the place, super energetic guy, 22 years old, but he does have that vision, and I think that's maybe the more important thing. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a thing where Guardiola's like, all right, you ran everywhere for Lyon. Come and play for Man City. You'll probably still run everywhere, but you'll be the base of the midfield, and we'll run everything through you.
Yeah. Because I think that's a key point there. Is that with like Pep Guardiola, in my mind at least, particularly, it's not necessarily about like, oh, I need a player who does this exact thing as Fernandinho. So like they play the same role, they do the same function, they have shaved heads, whatever. But I think it's you're probably right. It's about the few like things that Guardiola values for that spot. He's going to find somebody who can do those, even if it's like a left back, but he sees all the potential to be that holding midfielder. He'll go for that left back to play holding midfield. They also need a left back. Well, I mentioned that too.
Oh, Fabian Delph not cutting it for you?
Nor Benjamin Mendy, who's been in and out with injuries.
All right. Okay, so there's all our Man City Fernandinho replacement options. I feel like that's the big transfer story of January, right? Or at least the most interesting one to me.
I mean, aside from Pulisic, I think that would be a bigger one nowadays. But yes, I'm with you. So I'm going to stay in the Premier League then, since we both had one there.
Oh, sorry. To go back, I did also think if Guardiola wanted to really just like gamble everything on winning the Premier League this season, I'd go all in on Luka Modric.
Interesting.
Who's also 33, and I'd just have Modric and Fernandinho split time in the Manchester City midfield.
That seems less likely to me. I think he has. If he has his heart set on a move, as he reportedly does, it feels like it's maybe slightly closer to home. Would be my guess for Luka Modric.
What if Guardiola comes out of retirement and plays there himself?
That would be fine too. I'd be cool with that. I don't know if that's going to guarantee winning.
So I cut you off, but I really wanted to like suggest that to you just to see what your face did.
My face thinks that's unlikely. But I am going to stay in the Premier League, and I'm going to move to Tottenham because Tottenham, as we've been saying since. Or at least I've been saying since preseason and our predictions for the Premier League, that they needed depth. They needed to strengthen. I forgot that they already had Fernando Llorente, but so too has Mauricio Pochettino. So I don't feel so bad there. The issue, of course, with Tottenham is going to be money. Pochettino himself, I think, said there's no money to spend, basically.
Yeah.
Or
did you tell me he pulled out his own pockets?
I believe that's...
Does that suggest maybe a misunderstanding of where the money comes from?
Maybe. Maybe he just doesn't want to say anything too publicly. But I think a lot of money is still going towards the new stadium, so they're not quite ready to reinvest in the squad. So it seems like maybe this is where they will be looking at people who are soon to be out of contract. And I believe the rule is that if you have 6 months left on your current deal, but you haven't not yet signed a new one, you can negotiate with teams outside of your country. So I believe that's what I read. So I don't know.
I know you can negotiate with teams starting January 1st if your contract expires that year.
But I can't remember if you can do that within the same league or not. There might be rules against that. So either way, I think, you tell me if you think this is insane, but I feel like if you're looking for less money than you might otherwise pay for a very good player who is near or in the prime years of their career, and you could also take a shot at your rival, I think that Tottenham maybe take a look at Aaron Ramsey, is what I would say could work very well for them. Aaron Ramsey seems like he is on the way out, has been heavily linked with Juve, because Juve now have this established pattern of buying players who are coming to the end of their contract or negotiating for free transfers for players who probably should be getting a lot of money and then making it happen. I think Inter are also looking at Aaron Ramsey, but Tottenham bringing him in, he could play centrally for them, he can play out wide for them, gives them a lot of depth, and even though it's an Arsenal player moving to Spurs, I still feel like you can get him for like 15 to 20 million pounds, which is a big deal for a 28-year-old.
And his contract expires this summer?
This June.
If I was Aaron Ramsey, I wouldn't do that.
Why? Just for all the hatred that would come about?
You've still got to live in North London.
This is true. Right? But he's Welsh. He doesn't have that same, it's not as though he is a Tottenham player through and through, or an Arsenal player from birth, you know?
Wow. That rumour you've just started is fire.
I try. The other one that would be less controversial that you and I talked about a little bit, Ander Herrera similarly has 6 months left on his deal.
Yeah.
That feels like a Tottenham player to me as well. I love Ander Herrera.
Right.
I would be so sad. He's starting for United right now, so hopefully for me as a United fan that doesn't happen, because I think he could be very big for that team for years to come. But he is all the slightly diminutive but still very battling, will do all the work, is 100% dedication, 100% energy. I think he would be perfect for that midfield.
I think if Ander Herrera left Manchester United now, he'd be leaving the party just as it got good.
Yep.
He got to the party way too early. And it was terrible. He's had a terrible time. And then things have livened up, and then he leaves and goes somewhere else. I think that's a bad, at least in party terms, that's a bad move.
You know how, I agree. And you know how sports writers we've heard, not complain, but just sort of bemoan the fact that one of the realities of their job is that if a game is 1-0 heading into the 89th minute, if you have to write that match report, you've sort of already written it. And then if somehow the other team comes back and wins 2-1, you have to rewrite the whole thing. I feel like so many writers had their who's going to move in January, articles written before Mourinho was sacked. And so now that does change things because there's so many United players that I think people had listed. And you can sort of see it with, if you read those like 20 players who are going to be on the move, it's a lot of your initial entire explanation for this was that they're on the outs with Mourinho. So and now that they're not, it's like, well, has still been linked with moves away.
Okay, so since we're doing a Manchester United sidebar, let's do it all now.
Okay. I don't have any other United players in here, I don't think.
I don't either. I don't have Man United signing anybody because I'm guessing it's also, what's the opposite of permanent? Impermanent?
Yes.
It's also impermanent. Temporary right now. Like, we don't know how long Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be there. There isn't a technical director or director of football, but I think there's a plan to get one. So I almost feel like it would be...
I hope that's what Ed Woodward says publicly.
It would be crazy to spend big money on anyone that Solskjaer wants because you don't even know if he's going to be the coach long term. You don't know what the new director of football's vision is going to be. So I think it's more like just give Solskjaer time to play with what he's got.
Yep.
Right? So we're not expecting any Man United moves.
So that's why I think Ander Herrera would fit the bill, but if they can't get him, Aaron Ramsey for like 15 to 20. I feel like that might get it done.
All right. Okay, I've got one that's actually rumored.
Don't think it happens. Haven't seen it rumored. Would just like to see it happen.
I've got 2 Bayern Munich moves. So Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's in the scouting network, but not a lot of people will know his name because basically Sarri's not playing him. But he's very highly rated at Chelsea. And Bayern Munich have been looking at him. And there's a thing that's been referred to as the Jadon Sancho effect, where Bundesliga teams are thinking there's a lot of talented, young English players who are not getting chances because they're at these big teams and there's loads of big-name stars in front of them. And we should do a Jadon Sancho thing where we get them on the cheap, put them in the first team. So Bayern Munich, knowing that Frank Ribéry, Ian Robben are probably their contracts are done right at the end of the year, so they'll need like fresh new wingers. Yep. Serge Gnabry has that injury,
and then you also have Kingsley Coman, there, a Harry Potter character, who's there but often injured, so he's unreliable too.
Lost his wand.
Yep.
So Callum Hudson-Odoi, apparently Bayern put a 20 million bid in today. It's only January 2nd. So we'll see if that move comes off. I would be really interested to see how many Jadon Sanchos are out there and how far Bundesliga teams will take this.
Okay, I'm not going to go on a full non sequitur here, but I'm going to say this. It feels like German clubs have figured out something that English clubs haven't. And so they're coming in, and while everyone else is spending £100 million for a player, they're like, we'll give you $20 million for that 19-year-old who's really good. And English clubs are like, what? Like, that's ludicrous. Like, they're not starting for Real Madrid. Sure, you can have them. And then 4 years later, that English club is like, oh no, I see what we've done here, and I see what you've done here. It feels like maybe there's a little bit of outdated thinking amongst some clubs, less so amongst specifically those German teams. And I would say Juve as well. Juve good at that.
You know, Bayern Munich player we didn't mention, Alphonso Davies, which really proves that Bayern are really things don't feel great right now, but they might be at the forefront of some weird finding value on really talented youth players.
He is why I actually had a winger for Bayern Munich for the exact reasons you've listed, but I think Niko Kovac has come out and said there's a decent chance Alphonso Davies he's further along than they expected him to be. He's further along than players of his age in the Bayern Academy, so there's some expectation that maybe he does actually factor into the second half of the season. So then I think about Serge Gnabry and Alphonso Davies with Kingsley Coman in there too, and you've got a lot of youth and excitement there, so maybe you don't need a wide player, but to your point, maybe you need some players elsewhere.
Yes, I actually, I've got one more Bayern move. Did you know I had one more Bayern move?
I
mentioned it earlier. Right? Okay, so I think they should sign Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Crystal Palace.
I think Crystal Palace fans disagree, but sure.
Well, yeah, because he's been absolutely wonderful at right back, right? Defensively sound, dangerous going forward, the full package. We've noticed that Bayern Munich have been playing Joshua Kimmich, who was the right back who replaced Philipp Lahm, in central midfield. For the last 5 games or so, at least, Kimmich has been a central midfielder. Rafinha has been playing right back. Rafinha's 33. I'm never fully impressed with him, so I wouldn't mind seeing Bayern Munich sign Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, that works for me. I also initially was working on a theory of, not even a theory, but just an idea that Christian Eriksen would be a very good signing for Bayern Munich. He'd be a very good signing.
His face kind of fits, right?
It does. I think it's like the Danish player playing for Bayern Munich. Yeah. I feel like that's historically been a thing, so he continues that tradition. What it really comes down to is Bayern loath to spend more than they have to.
Yeah.
Again, preferring to go after young players on a free. And so the amount that it would cost, especially right now, for Tottenham to part ways with Christian Eriksen, it just doesn't seem like it's even remotely likely. But
what else you got?
I've gone like realistic, unrealistic now, so I'm going to stick with realistic. And we may have already gotten tweets about this, going back to our Pulisic conversation. This is one I really do think is going to happen this month. I think Gonzalo Higuain is going to Chelsea. That's one that we've seen rumors of here and there, more so once the window is opened. But I think it really, really fits. I think it would take a lot of work because you've got to move a lot of parts around. But Higuain currently on loan at Milan. That's not going very well. From Juve. So he's on loan. Basically, he was the one who made way so Ronaldo could come in and get minutes. But thus far, I think he has played 15 games, 6 goals, but only one, which was scored like yesterday or the day before, since late October. So it's not going swimmingly. And I think maybe Milan wouldn't be so sad to see that loan end. They would then, I think, be due compensation if he was prematurely recalled, and especially because I think they have an option to buy, so then they would have to be remunerated accordingly. What I've heard rumored was Higuain goes back to Juve, then is sold to Chelsea with money plus Alvaro Morata going the opposite way. Morata has experience with Juve, obviously, so that makes more sense to me. But the reason why I think this is such a good idea is because Higuain has previous with Mauricio Sarri.
Really?
That first season at Napoli, he broke the Serie A goal-scoring record, had stood for 66 years. Then Higuain partners up with Sarri. Suddenly he can't stop scoring. And so
it would be great news for Pulisic, right? To be an extra attacker that he's then got to worry about.
I think it would, because I think you could still do that weird like front three, false nine, but then you could have Higuain, maybe Hazard if he's still there, if not Willian and Pulisic, something like that. I think that works really well. I think the reason why this also makes sense to me is because, to your point, they wanted Pulisic this window. And I think at this point of the season, Chelsea, no, they're not really challenging for the title. No, they're not challenging for the title, but know that they want to get things firmed up. And I think at this point they can confidently say Morata is not the forward for us. We need a replacement striker. Again, people are going to know we have money, so we want to get this deal done. So at least we have that part of the team done for another 6 months. Then Pulisic comes in, then we have it even more permanently done. So for all that reason, I think that move to Chelsea happens this month.
All right.
I would probably be totally wrong when Higuain signs a permanent deal with Milan today, but right now it feels like a strong move to me.
Speaking of teams needing strikers, Schalke. I think I mentioned in the New Year's resolutions that Domenico Tedesco should get himself a centre-forward at Schalke.
Yep.
I think Schalke should sign, and I've put a lot of thought into this, Javier Hernandez. Chicharito himself from West Ham. So he has been playing for West Ham under Pellegrini. He's not been totally on the outs, but I think he'd like to play more. I think Schalke need a striker. I think Chicharito would be a massive upgrade on Burgstaller and Uth and Haji Wright and forcing Weston McKennie up there. Chicharito is a constant, always hungry goal predator, right? He's like an apex predator that can't stop eating. He's always on the move, always looking for angles, always looking for prey, wants to be fed goals all the time. So Chicharito to Schalke, already plenty of experience in the Bundesliga, did really well when he was with Leverkusen.
And even, I think, in the brief loan stint from United to Dortmund, I think was okay. I don't think he set the world alight. But
to Dortmund? I
think so. Maybe that was Kagawa going back. I forget. Somebody went to Dortmund for a brief period of time.
I don't think it was Chicharito.
Maybe not, though. Maybe it was just Leverkusen. But either way, that worked out very well for him.
Yeah, so I think Chicharito to Schalke. Yeah. That's just a completely made-up rumor that I think should happen.
Well, no, but it makes sense because it does feel like maybe he's not as valued by Pellegrini. Similar to Andy Carroll, who I think his time at West Ham is probably coming to an end as well. I think they also don't have very much money. They spend a lot in the summer. They're looking at Samir Nasri on a free. That's happened. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, maybe they're willing to part ways with Chicharito to get some money in to then reinvest it where they want to use it.
So I did read that Sevilla and Valencia were both in for Chicharito, and they were quoted £18 million for a 30-year-old player. It's not so bad in today's transfer market, right?
It is not.
Right? So I think if Schalke can match that 18 million, go for it. Also, more realistically, if Valencia get Chicharito, then Michy Batshuayi is on loan at Valencia. He may no longer be needed there. Then he's available. Yep. He's already played in the city for Dortmund. He has been on loan at Dortmund. Michy Batshuayi to Schalke to score all the goals, get them well above 13th.
That would be another controversial move for him to play for Dortmund and then to play for Schalke, but I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
I would not be okay with Adnan Januzaj playing for Schalke. That was who went on loan to Borussia Dortmund. Javier Hernandez went on loan to Real Madrid.
Yes.
That was the one that I was thinking of. I knew he'd got on loan, slightly bigger stature.
Wasn't there an actual Schalke rumour? Divock Origi from Liverpool. If I was Schalke, I would try and trade up for Sturridge or Solanke. But a striker for Schalke, just so Weston McKennie has someone to pass to.
All right. Well, I'm going back to my. So I've gone realistic, unrealistic, realistic. Let's get super unrealistic.
Okay.
I've got an attacker. I've got an attacker going to Real Madrid because I think they do need an electrifying goal scorer. I think they need a very exciting young player who can also create. From the rumors I've heard, Gareth Bale and Karim Benzema may be on the way out. I think Real Madrid...
I'm busy. I can't go. I don't speak Spanish.
I think they would do very, very well to go after Wilfried Zaha. That is my shout for Real Madrid.
That is incredible. I would love that.
Because think how well he would do at Real Madrid in La Liga.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has like the physicality to deal with the Premier League, but obviously has the pace and overall technical ability and goal scoring instincts. He can play up top by himself. He can play in a front two. He's done both of those with Palace. I would say his one big move to a big club would be Man United. That did not work. I don't think that's his fault. I think that was probably the situation that he found.
A bit too much, a bit too soon.
Yeah.
Right?
But I also think, again, I don't know why like PR factors into this so much for me or perception.
By the way, we're stripping Crystal Palace bare here. I'm sending Basaka to...
Oh boy. Well, they can retool. But I do think it also makes sense from like a temporary standpoint sort of for Madrid that you could splash a decent amount of money to get Wilfried Zaha to Madrid. But because he's playing for Crystal Palace as opposed to you're spending a bunch of money to get an Arsenal player or a Liverpool player or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then because he is playing for the Ivory Coast, it's not even an English player. And so I think you don't get nearly as much crazy attention and, oh my gosh, there's Madrid splashing out for the future of England.
Yeah, especially because he's come from Crystal Palace.
Yeah, and so I think he would really, really fit and do really, really well. And because Madrid are kind of in the state they're in without a permanent manager, and it does feel like, as we've already talked about, Modric could be gone, a lot of those other big names could leave in the summer, it feels like he kind of could be primed to become this massive player for them in a way that would take him to that next level that I would like to see him taken.
I think it would be a smart signing for Real Madrid. My counterpoint is because he's not flashy, because he's not an England international, and he's not playing for a big Premier League team.
Yeah.
That's the reason they wouldn't sign him, because that's how Florentino Perez operates.
This is the issue.
Right?
Yeah, is that like if they're going Galactico route, then they're probably still going aggressively at Eden Hazard.
Which is crazy, right? Because Zaha has the skills of a Galactico. The thing I love about him is his inventiveness to go past people. There's always like a move you didn't see coming.
Yeah.
He'd do great at Real Madrid on like a really front foot team.
I think he totally would. So that's what, that kind of came out of nowhere, but I was like, yeah, because it feels like at the end, this is the final note I had, he does feel like with all of the like technique and ability he brings, it feels like a young Ronaldo, maybe a season or two before he actually moving to Real Madrid, where it's like still a few step-overs too many on occasion, but you can see how under the right tutelage at Madrid, he could destroy that.
I think Zaha has the balance now. That's why I think he's so effective right now, is he doesn't waste a step over.
Yeah. All right.
He destroys people with him.
Even more so. That's why he should move there right now. Let's get it done.
I've got an American.
Okay.
Matt Miazga.
Oh, boy.
Has not been doing well at Nantes.
No.
Ever since Vahid Halilodzic took over as the new coach, he has not liked Matt Miazga, and Miazga has barely played. I think they should cut his loan short, send him back to Chelsea. I feel like I might have mentioned this on the show before, and then loan Matt Miazga to Aston Villa.
Okay. That would make me happy.
Big team, but in the Championship and short on central defenders, because Mika Richards always injured. John Terry is retired and is now an assistant manager.
Mika Richards and John Terry were their centre backs. Let's just let that sink in for a minute.
James Chester is their most senior centre back. Outside of that, they've got guys on loan, guys they've recalled from loan. It's not going great for Aston Villa centre backs. Matt Miazga would be a wonderful signing.
I think that's a really good shout.
And even though they're in the Championship, so second tier, it's the experience of playing for a big team. Right?
Yeah.
Like 40,000 people go and watch Aston Villa. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's a team that certainly plans on getting back into the Premier League. Even if it's like...
Maybe not this year, but eventually.
Yeah, but like it's I'm sure it's fun to play in the Championship when you're Aston Villa because you're kind of right up at the top and you're always competing in games. But the ultimate goal, you have to believe, is to get back in the Premier League. And so with those aspirations, I think Matt Miazga would do very well there. Yep. That feels like the type of move that goes there, and then if it works in those 6 months, suddenly permanent transfers start getting discussed.
Because I actually think we should be worried about Matt Miazga. Like Gold Cup's coming. If he has 6 months of just not playing at Nantes or going back to Chelsea and not playing, then we've kind of lost one of our best centre-backs in terms of... I mean, he still exists. But there was like a Thanos thing happening. But he would not be in form or match fit or anything like that.
All right. Yeah. Anything else on Matt Miazga?
Nothing else on Matt Miazga. Just, let's hope he goes somewhere.
All right. Well, I've got one, speaking of like players that we might lose. It's a player that I've completely lost track of because it just hasn't been a thing that I've thought about very much. But I have Keylor Navas going to anywhere. He is currently, as of today, I believe, rumored £16 million to Arsenal, I think is the latest rumor I saw.
That's a deal.
It's a deal, and it's especially but it's especially strange given that they like.
Oh,
it
yeah,
felt like
Leno, right?
Yeah, Leno's there, but maybe hasn't cemented his status. But it really, I could see Keylor Navas moving to Arsenal. I think that makes sense. I think moving to Juve, their current starting goalkeeper is Szczesny. Yeah, who I mean, he's fine, but he's not that next level caliber. And I think Keylor Navas is. Roma could use another goalkeeper. PSG even, and he could like come in as an understudy for Buffon and see where that goes.
If you sign Keylor Navas, then you have to win the Champions League 3 times in a row.
Well, that's the problem.
Because that's what you get with Keylor Navas.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
At the time when like Chelsea are spending so much money on a goalkeeper, Liverpool is spending so much money on a goalkeeper.
No, Chelsea bought a Kepa.
Oh, excuse me, my mistake. Chelsea is spending so much money on a Kepa. Liverpool is spending so much money on a keeper that to get him for £16 million, or maybe a little bit more than that if you want to try to outbid Arsenal, if that really does happen, that feels like a move that really should be happening, and I'm kind of confused why it isn't. So I'm just going to go ahead and say have him move to Juve. Let's get him to Juventus. Why not? Yeah.
Point at a map.
I've
got one really obvious one. Danny Drinkwater to Fulham.
Yep.
So Danny Drinkwater signed for Chelsea for £35 million a season and a half ago. This season, he played 30 minutes in the Community Shield.
30 games?
30 minutes in the Community Shield. He's been on the bench once in the Premier League and on the bench once in the EFL Cup. So in the last 6 months or so,
it's the dream.
Not a lot of football for Danny Drinkwater. Really useful midfielder.
Yeah.
He is not. I understand why he's not playing. He is not in the Jorginho, Kante, Kovacic, even Loftus-Cheek and Ross Barkley kind of technical level. But he's a useful Premier League footballer. His manager at Leicester when they win the Premier League was Claudio Ranieri. Fulham arguably needs some midfielders, right? They're starting Seri and Callum Chambers in central midfield right now. Okay, but not perfect.
Yeah.
Danny Drinkwater reunited with Claudio Ranieri, rescue Fulham. I think that would be a great loan move or even a permanent move if they could get him for, a cut down price.
I am very annoyed that I didn't think of this because I went through looking
it's not a competition, Mr.
No, but it was specifically because I went through and looked at Ranieri and then Leicester and was trying to figure out who could we reunite, but I made the mistake of looking at the current Leicester team, forgetting that Danny Drinkwater had already moved.
Yeah.
That's a great shout and I think would fit in very well at Fulham and would bring a little bit more steel and battle, and also just he's won the Premier League. He knows how to win the league, so he brings all that to Fulham under Ranieri. I think that makes a lot of sense.
My final one, an emotional pick, another Chelsea midfielder. I love me some Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
I know you do, my friend.
I think he is being hard done by. Right, he's actually got a few starts, but if he wants some more regular starts, I would loan him to Newcastle. Because Newcastle love a bargain.
They do.
They'll take a player for free, especially high-quality central midfielder like Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
To be fair, I think they did only announce that they needed 7 players. I think Newcastle or something. Rafa Benitez listed the players he needs, and it's a lot of players to be going after in January.
Are you all done?
No, I've got 2 more quick ones. One, we talked about a little bit off air. I still think I like it. Wolverhampton, of the fewest goals scored of any team in the top 12 in the Premier League right now, only 23 goals thus far through the season. I feel like if you'd have to sell it to him, but I feel like Olivier Giroud as a super sub, impact sub in the final 30 minutes or so, he's a 32-year-old forward, but he's out of favor at Chelsea very much so. So maybe you get him in there for the last half of this season. Yeah. Although, of course, then you have to. So maybe there'll be a loan, otherwise you're signing him to a deal, and then you have to convince him. But I just feel like he could be the impact player if they're chasing a game. They need a big presence up top. Get him in there, get ahead, get some goals.
You know what doesn't work is
because he can't run.
Well, he won't press like Raul Jimenez presses.
But in the final minutes of your chasing. Then he can run around.
Didn't Wolves just sign Tammy Abrahams as well? Has that happened? Or not?
I don't know if it's happened yet. That's
okay,
why. That's
that was
why
the rumor,
I didn't
right?
include
Tammy
that
Abraham.
one. Yeah. And then the other quick one I had, just because I want happy things to happen for him. I saw briefly this was rumored. I read this in the rumor mill, and I'm choosing to believe that it's going to happen. Is Radamel Falcao to Galatasaray? Because I think the world is a better place when Falcao is just scoring for fun. Looks like that confident player that is currently not happening with Monaco.
That makes sense.
He will score so many goals in the Turkish Super League. Let's get Falcao to Istanbul. Stat.
Okay, why have neither of us mentioned Miggy Almiron?
Because I think I don't know what's happening. That's the thing. Is it's because that he has already been linked with Newcastle.
Heavily.
If he had not been linked with Newcastle, I would have zero idea where I was putting him. Because he seems like a player who is going to want minutes right away and is going to want consistent minutes. But he's going to want to play for a team that's attacking, where he can be a creative role. What we've talked about before is that he's not going to want to slow the ball down and look for passes. He likes to turn and go. He wants to go at people. I don't know where he can do that outside of top 8 teams, and even then, I don't know where
Arsenal maybe.
And I don't know where he's going to get consistent minutes though. So that's why I have a hard time figuring where Miguel Almiron fits. If anything, I feel like Joseph Martinez is the one who fits the needs of a lot of Premier League teams right now.
Ooh, I'd take Joseph Martinez at Wolves.
There you go.
Happily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you take Miguel Almiron too, but it feels like you want a kind of fox in the box who can still score from distance striker with a proven goal-scoring record, at least this past season, versus Miguel Almiron. It just feels like he's an incredibly good player. I don't want to say like a butt when it comes to Miguel Almiron, but he does feel like a luxury player almost. Do you think that's fair, or is that unfair?
I wouldn't say that because he runs hard, right? Part of the reason why like Carlton had no chance of replacing Almiron is that Almiron does the pressing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense. That makes sense. You're right. I think
he might actually be a better signing for Chelsea than Christian Pulisic.
Oof.
Too late now.
Oof.
Too late now. Chelsea signed the paperwork.
Yeah. But so all of that is to say that's why I didn't have much for him.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the Newcastle thing is maybe going to happen or has at least been so discussed that
Newcastle can't find the money all of a sudden?
I think Atlanta want £30 million. I think Newcastle, as I was joking, I think they want to sign multiple players in the window, and I don't think they have the budget to spend. If you sign 4 players for $30 million, I think that's well above what they're willing to do.
I don't know what's happened, but I bet Mike Ashley's a nightmare to deal with.
I don't think you need to say I bet. I think we can just firmly state that, and we'll deal with what comes.
All right, you ready to wrap this up?
Sure.
All right, Taylor Rockwell. So we have done a big transfer special here.
Yep.
Talked a lot of Pulisic. I hope we gave people a lot of information about that. Tomorrow's show, we'll be back to talk Man City versus Liverpool.
Yeah, we will.
You may have noticed we haven't done a lot of reviews of games. That's partly because we've been on vacation, partly because games come so thick and fast. It kind of wasn't worth reviewing the most recent game because then the next one comes. The game's happening right now, right? Wolves and Man United are playing right now. We're going to catch up on that as soon as we're done recording.
We sure are.
Tomorrow, we'll be back for Man City versus Liverpool for all the Premier League marbles.